Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my July wrap up. You guys know I do these vlog style every time I finish a book or when I have a chance to film the clip. So it is July 11th today, and I did actually finish this quite a while ago, but this is the first chance I'm getting to film. And the first book I read this month was Night of Cake and Puppets. I'm reading this as part of the Book Junkie Trials. This was Dwarf Mount, a book with a hint of romance. This is the companion novella, I guess, to the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, and it's about Mick and Susanna's first date. They kind of hinted at it in the series that it was something epic, and they were able to come up with, I think this is 250 pages. Why am I out of breath? And I really freaking loved it. It was super cute. I gave it 5 stars. I loved the illustrations in it. The end papers are beautiful. Mine is from the library, of course. But it is illustrated and it's just a stunning book. And if you are reading the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, I would definitely recommend picking up the companion as well. I like that they kind of, in the main trilogy, they left this so vague so that it is worth picking this up. I hate when series have little novellas or companions that just kind of reiterate things that you already kind of knew, and that's not what this was at all. So really happy I read that, and that is the first read for July, and I will see you guys when I finish another book. Hey guys, another check-in for my July wrap up. I have finished 2 more books, one of which I finished literally en route to the library, so I wasn't able to film a clip holding the book, and that was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This is a new adult contemporary romance novel between 2 male characters. So there's a male-male romance that is between the Prince of England and the first son of the United States. Wow. This book was so steamy, so good. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I couldn't believe how romantic the story was. It's kind of hate to love, but the hate is definitely one-sided. It's just a fantastic read. It's very long. I've heard some people had some pacing issues, which I definitely kind of got. Like, sometimes it would be like 100 pages of like the same day, and then other times like one sentence to the next is like Thanksgiving to Christmas. So I totally get that, but it's 5 out of 5 stars for me based off of my enjoyment. It's very politics heavy, which actually American politics are much more interesting when we pretend that Trump never happened. I'm not American, and this is kind of like an alternate reality where it's based like in present day, like 2019, and then into the 2020 election. But in this book, the last elected president was actually a woman who has a biracial family. She was previously married to a Mexican immigrant, I believe. I'm pretty sure he was from Mexico. Anyways, they're a Latino family. The president of the United States is white, but then her children are mixed race. And oh my gosh, I just love this book so much. I'm sure you've heard lots about it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely loved it, like most everyone else did. The second book I have finished since my last check-in was The Carrie Diaries by Candace Bushnell. I finished this for like the randomly chosen book for the Book Junkie Trials. I randomly selected a book off my shelf. I did a random number generator. This was the book that was chosen for me. I gave this 2 stars. I literally forced myself to finish this to complete that challenge. If it weren't for a readathon where I had to finish it, I definitely would have DNF'd this book. 2 stars I feel like is generous. I had to pick up the audiobook just to get through it. The audiobook is atrocious as well. Just the narrator did a terrible job. She has horrible accents. There's way too many characters in here that she tried to give different voices, and it was like a one narrator, and it just got really confusing. The voices got to be really strange, like some of the later introduced characters. This book is like the prequel to Sex and the City. You're following Carrie Bradshaw as she's a senior in high school, and this book is exactly how high school should not be. How it is for many people, or like it used to be. I think this is in the 80s, but just like the worst high school experience you could possibly imagine is this book. It's filled with, you're not like other girls, oh my god, I'm gonna kill myself if he doesn't like me. Everyone's cheating on everyone, like stealing your friend's boyfriends. She's sleeping with this person. He was my boyfriend. Oh, he's gay. Oh, I'm just gonna go on a date and not tell anybody about this one. My boyfriend will never find out. Like, oh my gosh, this book was absolutely terrible. And now I'm reading a book that I'm really loving, and I can't wait to share that with you in my next update. Hopefully I will finish it soon, but there's the update on the most recent 2 books that I finished. One really great book and one really terrible book. I'll see you in the next check-in. Hey guys, this will be my final check-in for my July reading wrap-up, and over the last week I've actually finished 3 more books. So I had an amazing reading month for the Book Junkie Trials, even though only 3 of the books I read in total qualified for that readathon, so I didn't complete the readathon as I had hoped to, but like overall I still feel like I read a lot of books this month, and I'm really happy about that. First off, for this update, I finished Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is an adult fantasy. No, this is an adult sci-fi series. This is the first in this series, and it has been said to be reminiscent of The Hunger Games mixed with Game of Thrones, and it's set on Mars, and I think that is so perfect. I was hooked right from the beginning, although I thought it was going to be your very typical tropey kind of YA type of book, even though I knew this was an adult book for like the first, is it like 50 to 100 pages? 50 pages. The first part, it's split into parts as well as chapters. And I was like, I was still really loving it. I fell in love with a lot of the characters, and then there's many big events that happen throughout this book. The plot is so fast-paced and interesting, but the first really major thing that happens, the world just explodes in front of your eyes, and it's so big and so intricate, and this is a new favorite book. I definitely gave this 5 stars. In this world, the people are split into colors, like as their races, and so reds are at the very bottom, like the lowest of the low people, and then golds are at the top, and there's many colors throughout the spectrum. Each color has its own job, its own set of skills, and not only is it just kind of talking about like segregation in such a way that it's based on race, but also like the reds are physically, mentally less than a gold, for example. Like it's evolutionarily that way. Also, the reds have red hair, rust-colored eyes. Golds have golden blonde hair, gold-colored eyes. Like everything about them is their color, and I found that so interesting. It from when it starts to where it ends is almost feels like a completely different book. And I can't wait to pick up the next one because there's the original trilogy has 3, and then there's another trilogy to follow right after. So it's basically a 6-book series, and I'm so excited. Sorry, I keep blinding you. So excited to continue with this. I finally picked this up. It was one of the books that have been on my Goodreads TBR the longest, and I finally picked it up because Piera was doing a read along. I'm way behind them. They're reading like a book a week or a book every week and a half, and I can't keep up with that, but I'm glad that it was because of her that I finally was like, you know what, yeah, I'll pick up Red Rising, and yeah, new favorite. Then I finished Influencer by Brittany Hennessy. I gave this book 2.5 stars. This is a nonfiction book about being an influencer, whether that's blog, Instagram, YouTube, although nowadays you kind of need to be on all platforms, and it's not just about beauty, people, or lifestyle. It's more general. It's talking about like the industry as a whole. Brittany Hennessy, works on the brand side, and so she offers her insights, how she looks at booking influencers, what factors play into that, what she's looking for, how to do this, and that sort of thing. And I'm glad I read it as someone on YouTube and Instagram. I have 2 channels. My beauty channel is much bigger than this one. Not that I'm like an influencer in how she's talking about in this book, but I wanted to read it to kind of gain that insight and see it from her side, whereas she's closer to the brands than the influencers that you and I watch. And I'm glad I read it. It's very factual, but it's factual in condescending isn't the word, like that's the word that he's popping in my mind, but that doesn't feel like the right one. Like, it's not motivating in any way. It's like, you need to be this. If you're not, don't even try. She was talking about, she has examples of different brands, but she was talking about beauty brands for a section. And it's like, they don't like when you pick favorites. So if they're scrolling through your feed and the other week you said that X brand's new formula of lipstick is your new favorite formula ever, then they're never going to book you because you like sided yourself with one brand. And I think that's so unrealistic. That's not how consumerism, even influence or not works. Like, I don't say, oh wow, this lipstick's my favorite and it's the only lipstick that I will ever try or recommend ever. Same with saying that you really don't like something. Brands don't like that to the point that they will never book you in the future. She talks about pricing out jobs, like working on contracts, things like that. I found that part really interesting because nobody really talks about the money side that much on YouTube. But it was like, if you want to be booked again, these are the things that we're looking for. We paid you for 1 post, but you actually posted 3 back to back. Or we paid you for 5 photos to send in for a magazine spread, for example, and you actually sent in 10 and at different locations. Which, of course, brands like when you under promise and over deliver. But to say that brands like, it's the unspoken expectation that you do twice or triple the amount of work than what they're paying for, and that will ensure that they will like you. I think that's a really unhealthy way to discuss business. I have a business degree, and while that may be true, I think it's really, like, I don't know. I just really didn't like that. Like, if you liked working with your brand, this brand, make sure that you do way more than they pay you instead of negotiating a higher rate, which kind of defeats the purpose of being a freelancer. I also have my own freelance business, and if I did stuff like that, I wouldn't be making very much money. So, anyways, it was good, it was factual. If you're interested in it, I think it's a good book to read to get that perspective, but don't expect it to be motivating in any way where you're like, wow, I can do this. It's very much like, oh, if you just work, you know, decently hard, in about a couple of weeks you can be at like 30,000 followers on Instagram, stuff like that. And it's just, that's not how it works. Okay, that was a long rant. Lastly, I just finished Descendant of the Crane by Joan He. I was struggling through this in May. I had to return it back to the library. It's still a pretty new book, so the wait list is pretty long, and I just got it back to finish the last, I think I had like 60 pages left. I gave this 2.5 stars as well. This is a YA fantasy. It's Chinese inspired, and it was marketed as a standalone. However, once you get to the end of this book, you realize that this is a setup to a much larger political war-filled fantasy series, and I really don't like that. This book, there's too much going on, too many characters that are not well fleshed out, to the point, like, she was trying to do too much and none of it was done really that well. I was confused a lot of the time. There was such an opportunity for amazing, rich world building, and we just get little hints of that, while the majority, like probably 80% or more of the story is told within the castle walls. And once you get to the end, you realize that's because this is a setup for a bigger series. And I just feel like that's really deceiving. And regardless, I didn't enjoy this to the point that I will pick up the series to follow this. I didn't explain what this is about. So we have Hasina, who is a princess, and her father is dead and she believes him to be murdered, and starts this big trial to find out who killed the king. And now she is queen because her father died, and her mother lives up in the mountains. They call her the Dowager Queen, and I don't really understand what that means, except for she doesn't rule. She lives up in the mountains away from everyone else because she is ill. And there's a lot of politics, kind of like a whodunit. There's lots of secrets. Everyone's backstabbing everybody else. There's a fleeting romance. There are sooths who are magical beings who can see into the future, like very specific things. So if you ask them, what is the weather going to be like tomorrow, they could answer you. But like really vague questions, they can't. And when they bleed, their blood catches on fire. So they are seen as evil, and if they're caught, they are cut over and over again until basically they burn to death. So they're kind of in hiding, and she tries to use the sooths to help her figure out who killed her father. And by the end of the book, it really has nothing to do with that anymore. There's a lot of trigger warnings for this as well, which I think if you are a sensitive reader, then you should definitely look them up, because the trigger warnings are spoilers, so I'm not going to say them here, but there are quite a few. I think this should have been marketed more as new adult, because there are a lot of more adult themes, although the characters still read really young. So because of that, it's a little confusing, but yeah, I didn't really enjoy this book. So those are all of the books that I read in July. Like I said, this was a pretty good reading month for me, numbers wise, although I read a lot of pretty disappointing books. We had Descendant of the Crane, Influencer, and the Carrie Diaries, and hate's a strong word. I disliked all three of those especially, but I also found a new favorite in Red Rising, so I guess we can't win them all. I hope you guys are enjoying these more vlog style wrap-ups where I can actually, show you the books. Like all three of these books are library books that are due back soon. Alright, that's it from me today. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!